Hi, my name is Dan Osier. These are the level 1 jump shots. We're going to be doing two types of jump shots. Two of the shots will be with a regular jump cue jumping into a rail, and then the final jump shot will be with a jump cue. Shot 1A is a classic rail jump escape shot. What we're going to do is take the one and put it right in the pocket. That's the ball we're going to try to make. And then we're going to set up some blocker balls that we're going to have to jump over. So we start with one of them on the diamond, another on the other diamond, and then we're just going to arc around that, completing a segment of a circle here. Now the cue ball, I like to place about a ball away from the 12 and about a ball away from the 14. So a ball away from the second and the third ball out from the long rail. And then when I shoot this shot, I'm actually shooting out away from the pocket. I want to ideally land about here, but I'm shooting with a little bit of left-hand English, which will bring it back to the one. The reason I do that is I want to stay away from this pocket point. Because that's actually a way that I've missed this shot a lot, is to hit that pocket point. So, aiming a little bit away with some good left-hand English. Shot 1B is another rail jump that you can do with your regular shooting cue. What I've done is I've set up a group of 6 blocking balls, and their front edge here is directly even with the center of the first diamond line. And then I've set a 1 up in the corner. And the cue ball is adjustable. The only rule is it has to be in the 1 diamond by 1 diamond zone. And it cannot be less than a chalk from this rail, from the long rail. Where I typically put that, though, is about 1/4 of an inch or so away from the rail, and about with the edge of it right at the point. What I'm going to do is aim as if the edge of it was going to just barely get to the 15. So I'm going to aim basically through this point, which would make the edge of my cue ball go right to the edge of the 15. I'm going to elevate, and I'm going to think of the cue ball coming pretty much straight up off of the rail. So shooting through that line, cue ball trying to go straight up. Shot 1C is a one-handed jump shot. What we're going to do here is just set up the shot and demonstrate it, and then I'll go over the concepts of how to do a one-handed jump shot more in the concept section. So let's go ahead and start with our object ball deep in a pocket. We're going to set up a row of 6 blockers that are going to be 3 wide by 2 deep. And where I typically set those up is right between the first and second diamond and 1 ball off the rail. Once I've done that, I remove those 2 setup balls. And then we have to set up the cue ball. And the setup for the cue ball has to be so that it's going over the tallest point, right in the center of these 2 balls, rather than through the valley, like that. So we want to go over the tallest point. And when I'm lining up this shot, what I'm thinking about is hitting very close to center on the cue ball, but just a little bit to the right-hand side. And what that does is allows the cue ball to come into the rail, giving me a better chance of making the 1. As you progress in trick shots, you may find yourself wanting to get a jump cue. There's a lot on the market, so I'm going to cover just 2 basic styles. The first style is a very traditional style cue. It has a traditional taper all the way to the tip. The tip is very hard, and it's 40 it's more than 40 inches. And it really works great for jumping in almost any situation. Second style I want to go over is an ultralight. This is less than 4 ounces. The taper, you can see, stops before the tip and then balloons back out. That's part of how it gets the light weight. And where it's really useful is when you need to jump at a very high angle, and accuracy is a little less important. So you can see that's less than a ball away, and I should be able to jump over that with an ultralight cue. And if you're just getting into trick shots, you can also use this jump cue. And this was my first jump cue. It's actually the shaft off of a regular playing cue. What that does is gives you a nice light cue to work with. The problem with it, though, is it's not allowed in trick shot competitions. In order to be allowed in trick shot competitions, it needs to be at least 40 inches. And the shaft of my playing cue isn't. But if you're wanting to kind of learn some of these shots, you can use just a shaft to jump with, although it can be a little tricky sometimes. But you can definitely get out of most jumping situations with just a shaft. There's two main ways to use a jump cue. One is to use it kind of like a regular cue. So my backhand is just like that. And then the only difference is, as you elevate up, you can see that my elbow is going very high up in the air. And I just shoot through the core of the cue ball, or in this case the gate. And you should be able to get a jump that way, especially if you have a good jump cue. The second way, and this is the way I'm going to focus on because it's the way I shoot most of my jump shots, is to use a darting grip. And so when doing a darting grip, I'd like to find the center, the balance point of the cue. And then I'm going to take my middle finger, put it right by the balance point. Second finger, put my thumb against that. And then my ring finger is against that. And so I have 4 points, 1, 2, 3, 4. Lay my cue in an open bridge, again, right through the core of the ball I'm hitting, and it shoots right through. Now as you're doing that, you want to keep your motion very limited, just to your wrist pretty much. So if you watch my arm, you should see that it's relatively motionless, and most of this motion is coming from my wrist. Okay, so a one-handed jump, there's going to be one change that I make, and that's going to be, instead of laying my second finger behind the balance point, I'm going to put it in front of the balance point, so my thumb goes on the balance point. So balance point, second finger, or sorry, middle finger, second finger, and thumb, and then that comes through. And what that does is makes it so that I'm not having gravity bring the cue ball or the tip of the cue down. Instead, that should be pretty much at equilibrium. And again, the idea is to keep as steady as possible. Don't do a lot of motion. I like to have the cue so that it's going right into my neck as I'm shooting one-handed. And aim at that core of the ball, and you should be able to do a one-handed jump with pretty good consistency that way. Core of the ball, and it goes through.